For GateWorld.net, I'm David Reed. My name is hilarious. You know, it really is. Actually, we just cut something off earlier. I'm David Reed, and I'm here talking with Miss Sabine Bauer, author of several Stargate books published by Fandemonium. Thank you for being with us today.
It's a pleasure.
We're at GateCon 2008. It is just wrapped. Thoughts?
I had a blast. In a nutshell, it was fabulous because it was so relaxed, and it is always fun.
Yeah.
Talking to people who love the same thing as you do, and obviously I love Stargate. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. It also was in certain instances absolutely amazing because I had more than one person coming up to me saying, "Well, we are here because you are," and I'm like, "Guys, did you look around the room and see who else is here?" So
That's exactly
what's going on?
Well, you know,
it's amazing. It's amazing, and it's wonderful to know that the books are appreciated the way they are.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many titles have you written for Stargate so
Three.
far?
Three. I wrote the first one out the box, Trial by Fire. I wrote the number 7, which was Survival of the Fittest, and I've just published my very first Atlantis book, Mirror Mirror.
Mirror Mirror, which I was joking with Darren in a podcast the other day. It's the Atlantis variations instead of the Daedalus variations.
I guess so. Yes. It came out of an idea that I had years back about space odyssey, if you will. Really taking the structure, well, not necessarily the structure, but elements of Homer's Odyssey, and transplanting it, which is, it's not an altogether bizarre choice, given the gate system, given what can happen if it malfunctions. And, the end product is a lot less close to Homer than I thought it might be. Because, writing aptitude aside, my stories usually start with word 1 and then they go wherever the hell they please to go. I shouldn't say hell, should I? Heck.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it's cool. You don't design a framework.
No.
Really, they are completely free.
They are completely free because basically I've got the attention span of a gnat. And if I know that I start at point A, have to travel through B, C, D, and E to get to F, or however far down the alphabet you want to go, I'd bore myself to tears. And I'd never finish a book, and I know that. And the most fun in writing for me is the fact that if I want to know how the story turns and twists and ends up eventually, I will have to sit down and write it and let it choose its own way, because if I don't do that, I'll never know. So yeah, I suppose that's using my own curiosity.
But you have a general idea of where you want to go, right? Where you want the book to end, I would imagine?
I may have a general idea at the onset, but it very rarely coincides with what will be there in the finished product. It's a bit like, my first love, if you will, was directing.
Aha!
And I always refused to be one of those despots who walk into the rehearsal room with a completely worked out marching plan, and then you go and shove the actors around as you think they should be shoved around. I always worked a sort of group endeavor. I let them throw ideas at me, and let's see where we can take this. And in my writing, to a very large extent, literally the characters have taken the place of the actors. And more often than not, the characters will suddenly do very strange things. And I go, well, gee, thank you, Rodney. That was interesting. Let's follow this.
But that comes out of you, nevertheless. It just you let a little facet of you take over for a minute and go down a trench, I guess.
Yes.
Sidebar.
And obviously it can be one heck of a dead end, and I will have to retrace my steps and cut huge chunks.
So you've had to rewrite before?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't always work, and there will be wrong turns, evidently. But it's also a very, very exciting way of writing.
Mm-hmm.
And in Mirror Mirror, a lot of things happened I didn't expect to happen.
Really?
When I set out writing. And that caused certain problems in the process, and God knows sometimes I was frustrated as hell with it. But it was fascinating where it ended up, and I mean, even the challenge of then right at the end having all these strands that needed to be put together again organically was great.
Mm-hmm.
And it is more or less the same with anything I've ever written, be it the Fandemonium books, be it fan fiction. I let it run. And I mean, what made Mirror Mirror slightly more difficult was the fact that I didn't know the characters as well as I know the Stargate SG-1 gang. I mean, okay, talk about getting what you want, I'd asked for it, quite literally. Because when I finished Survival, after, 6 years of writing fan fiction, and another 3 of writing Trial and Survival, I was like, okay guys, I love you dearly, but I do need a break now. Go off, have a nice holiday somewhere in Madagascar or whatever, but I need to do something new. And I spoke to Sally, who's the managing editor of Fandemonium, and said, well, look, for the next one, if it's okay, I'd like to try my hand at Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, okay, cool, go ahead, do it. And yes, then I suddenly realized, oops, this is a whole new ball game.
Whole different team. The Stargate is the only thing the same.
Exactly, and even that is different.
Yeah, it's just the principle of it, really.
Exactly. And it then took a lot of work and quite a few missteps as well,
really?
to get to the characters.
Uh-huh.
Because I mean, obviously there is a difference of whether you have 3 seasons of Atlantis, which is what I had then because the DVDs were out. Well, I had kind of 2.5. Season 3 came out when I was halfway through. Or if you've actually been following SG-1 for 9+ years, and can recite entire pages of dialogue.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So that was a huge step outside my comfort zone, which probably did me a hell of a lot of good as a writer, because I had to get through that. And no, this wasn't fan fiction, and no, this wasn't writing with impunity, apart from the odd email saying, what the heck are you doing with Weir or with Rodney or whomever. It had to be right there and then. It was interesting.
Well, you're learning these characters just as the rest of us are, and but you have to basically play finger puppets with them, and you have to know who they are as
Absolutely.
well. You know,
Absolutely, and that is, it isn't that easy when you don't have this huge background of knowing a show that well, and it's kind of fascinating, the coinciding there. I was at WorldCon 2 weeks back and met Ashley McConnell, who wrote the first 4 Stargate books for Penguin Rock.
okay.
And Ashley, of course, was at the time confronted with the exact same problem, only more so. And I mean, I can see exactly what the difficulty was for her, and it's kind of upsetting if you hear people saying, well, your books are so much better and the first 4 were crap. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It is not fair. You know, she never had the chance.
Yeah, she didn't. I mean, she didn't have 9 years of knowledge, or however
Exactly.
many it was. You know?
Exactly.
She did what she could. So.
And yeah, in that respect, doing Mirror Mirror, it wasn't quite the same thing, obviously, but it certainly made me sit up and think, yeah, girl, you had a tough time there.
Yeah, because I mean, when you work with nothing, you make your own story and you pave your own way, and you know those characters are going to go in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, as characters do, they have sometimes annoying habit of doing that.
Yeah, as our lives do, you know. So kind of a similar thread there. So you've written 3 books for Fandemonium in the Stargate genre. Which has been the most satisfying to you? Is it Mirror Mirror? Is it the latest one, or is
it? It may turn out to be. I don't know yet, because I'm still too close, and yeah, the process was difficult. And when I finished the first draft, I was just thank God this is over.
Thank God it's over. Well,
Yeah.
that's not a great feeling.
Yeah, but it was certainly that, and then
It's sincere. Thank God.
Yes. And then I got the galleys and was going over it, and obviously reading it very carefully, because you want to root out anything that's wrong. And there's probably still many typos I missed, because one always does. But it was also actually discovering what I'd written.
Where did I go? I didn't plan it, so what happened?
What happened, and actually, this isn't altogether bad. This passage here I quite like, as a matter of fact. So that was interesting, and there may be more of that. I mean, what absolutely floored me was the response of Karen Miller, who had the first draft, and she got back to me, and I have to say, Karen is someone I hugely respect, not just for the Stargate books, but especially for her own work. She's got 3 fantasy novels out now, which are exceptional. And somebody like that to come back to you and say, do you know what you've written there?
Well, no, I'm still trying to figure out. It's over, but
Exactly.
You like it?
Yes, exactly that. What? You like it?
Yeah.
So
Well, we paid you to make it good.
it was interesting. It's an interesting process, and in a way, I like the insecurities, because it probably enables me to walk through a door without my head hitting the frame either side.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yes.
You don't want to be cocky as a writer. And yeah, we'll see. we'll see.
You were a fan fiction writer long before you were
Yes. Yes.
writing the novels. You know, who approached whom? You know, how did you get this far? You know, to those who are great fan fiction writers who would like to follow the same path. Do tell.
I will tell, because it's it's one of those stories, and people have heard me say this before. It's certainly something that does not ever happen in the real life.
No.
Fandemonium approached me. They were familiar with my fan fiction, and one fine day I get this email, and they were asking, would I be prepared to write for them? And this is what they're doing. And I was like, okay, candid camera, who's going to jump out from where?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then it very quickly turned out that it was all perfectly true.
This is not a gag.
And of course, funnily enough, I said, yeah,
Exactly.
Of course I will. And I suppose the rest is history, and I think it's wonderful, and I feel extremely privileged to be able to do something I love and be paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa!
Yeah, what a concept, you know?
Yes,
That's
yeah,
extraordinary.
and I definitely wasn't familiar with that, because if you're working as a director on the London Fringe, you generally have to pay for the privilege to work in your chosen profession. So
Yeah.
it was rather a different concept and a bit startling, but yeah,
Rewarding.
Wonderful.